Hello everyone, today I'm here to review Targi. This is a two-player worker placement game with no board, it's all on cards, and it's from Kosmos, who did send me the game to review. Let's briefly touch on how the game plays, how that worker placement and card sort of setup works, and then I'll come and give you my thoughts and feelings on the game. In Targi, your main aim is to create a display of tribes cards that's in a 4x3 pattern. You are trying to get certain ones in certain spaces because there are bonus points if your row matches of all the same type or is completely different. Those tribes cards are also going to offer you points, but they come at a cost, so you're also going to be having to get goods. Now, this has a really interesting worker placement logic. First of all, there is a robber that blocks a space that moves slowly round the board, and there are also then many other spaces. You are on your turn, you're going to go back and forward to place 3 of your Targi figures, these meeples. Where you place triggers that action, so it's like a worker placement spot, which is then blocked. You're also, for your opponent, blocking the opposite worker placement spot as well, which is quite an interesting twist. So once you've done that, your opponent is going to place one, and then you place another. Now, most of the time, you'll be trying to work out where they intersect on the central grid, because when you've placed all your 3, you're going to put your tribe markers down where they intersect in the middle. And these are other spots, effectively worker placement-ish like spots, that you're going to get. These could be giving you a good, or be one of those tribe cards that you're going to be hopefully paying for and adding to your display. So you go back and forth placing your 3 meeples out and then work out where they sort of cross over in the middle to be your sort of 5 actions each round. The first starting player then does all of their actions in any order, followed by the other player doing their 5 in any order. And that's quite important because sometimes you're maybe collecting some resources that are then allowing you to get that tribe card played. So the game goes kind of backwards and forwards with people placing those meeples and then doing the actions at the end. Now, this is where an interesting thing is, when you have used a good card from the middle of the market, it's replaced by a tribe card. And when a tribe card leaves, a good card is added back in. So there's a bit of a flow there, which we'll touch on in a bit. Obviously, you're trying to score the most points as you play, and how does the game actually end? Well, throughout, you're building out 3 rows of 4 cards of those tribe cards in a display in front of you. When you've managed to do that, or your opponent manages to do that, that's the final round triggered. So you finish that round up and then see who's got the most points. The other way is, if that robber makes it all the way round the board to the final raid space, that also triggers the end of the game, and you're still then going to be scoring up points. Now, I say raid space, at periods throughout the game, there's going to be a choice for players. Raided by the robber, you're either going to give up some resources or some points. So hopefully you've got resources to hold on to, because if you don't, you're going to be spending the points that you're really trying to get, because points mean prizes, or at least victory in Targi. So anyway, that's how the game plays. Let's first of all touch on the production quality. The cards are really nice and easy to shuffle. I really like that the action spaces around the edge are double-sided. Not different, although that would have been cool, but on one side it's sort of graphically shown what you do. Normally get a resource or a certain action, like the trader allows you to trade a certain number of resources, identical resources, either for a coin or for any good sort of thing, sort of allowing you to get the right stuff for a tribe card. Now, that's in a graphical, like, icon form on one side, but you can pick the card up and read what it does on the other. So you don't have to dive back to the rulebook, it's right there, sort of on the board in front of you. Now, it being a board, basically, of cards, does mean it can get a little messy. Sometimes when you're adding cards in, because if you take a good card, you replace it with a face-down tribe card until the start of the next round, where you flip it over. That can get a little messy as you accidentally nudge some of the edge cards and stuff like that. it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be going into like my first game. I was like, oh, I nudged it during setup and I was going to like, this is going to happen a lot. Actually, through playing Targi a number of times, it doesn't actually happen as often as I thought. And as long as you've not squeezed everything together and the cards sort of overlap, you don't have too much of an issue. Just have a little bit of space between the cards, and that was certainly not a problem. And you can still very clearly see this grid for working out, right, my meeple's over here, one's over here, they meet, that's my other action from the sort of meeting in the middle. So all of that sort of works really well. So the cards are nice, really obvious which symbol they are. Are they an oasis, a well, someone riding a camel rider? So that's all really clear. The sort of abilities, really clear to read on the cards as well, which is very important. And it's, again, really clear with iconography. This is how much a card costs. This is what the points it's giving you and all that. So all of that production quality is really quite good. Production quality alone, though, isn't going to be a good game. Thankfully, Targi is a really interesting, puzzly worker placement sort of game with these nice ebbs and flows of needing to gain resources and then spending them for tribe cards. And that's kind of generated by the way that market refreshes. You sort of spend a load of your resources to buy a tribe card from the middle, adding it to your display. It's then replaced for the next round by a good card, which is good because you've got no goods left. You've just spent them for that card. So it means you've kind of got this nice rhythm and flow of, I need resources because I've just spent them on cards. Well, the market's now got a lot more of them in the market. So there's a really nice flow of that between the two types of cards. But there's one resource type which is really hard to get hold of and really fought over, and that are the coins. Now, some goods cards come with coins that are often needed for a lot of the tribes cards, or sometimes it's you can do these resources or a coin, which means you're really tempted to just pay the one coin. But coins are really hard to come by, so when they come out in the market, they're really fought over, and often the spaces that allow you to get a coin, such as the trader, that's also a hotly contested worker placement spot. So some spaces are good at certain times as well, because it's not always just like, yeah, the trader's brilliant if you're needing a coin or a certain other resource. But chances are, if you're just needing another resource, there's a card somewhere that will get it for you. And you've got this sort of really interesting choice of, I need that because I need that coin, but if I get on that space, I don't really want any of the actions from the middle market. At least not yet. So maybe you do something different, you're trying to just maximise the number of resources you can gather in that round and hopefully splurge on the next. And you're often just sort of almost fighting mentally your opponent. I really need that spot, please don't pick it, I really need that spot. And you get that real cheer when they don't go on the sort of worker placement spot you need. So allowing you to go for it, you know, to maybe get that card in the middle or just to activate that option, that space. So you get a real high, and you get those real annoyances of, I claimed all the resources last round for that tribe card. You've just blocked me. Are you going to take it? And sometimes they block you because they want something else in that row or column. And you're like, oh, I have another chance next round. And next round, maybe you're the first player, you're the starting player. So you can jump in at least to try and block that column. Maybe they swoop across the row and still screw you. But there's that constant thing of, right, where am I going? Where are they going? Can I block what I think they're going for? But is it actually worth it because that action's not as good for me? So there's plenty of really good choices there, with a little bit of luck from some of the abilities to just take a card off the top of the deck and see what happens. But that does feel super lucky if you get the right thing. But you're always going to get something from that. If it's like the caravan action, which is look at the top good card and from the deck and get that. It's never going to be bad, but sometimes you're really hoping that it's got that bit of salt or that couple of dates that you're really needing to pay for a tribe card. Now, one issue that I do have with this amazing amount of actions in the central market, I had slow turns. I'm not normally someone that suffers with a lot of analysis paralysis. And I found that some of my turns, when I was working out where I needed to go and what I wanted to do, that I was taking a bit of time. I didn't mind it. It meant that the game really had drawn me in to make me really think and ponder every choice that I was making. But I do think if you suffer from analysis paralysis, this game with sort of the 5 potential actions you're going to take every round, that's maybe a bit too much for you to think everything through, and I feel like you might either get frustrated with it or you're just going to be really slow. Now, even once you've got your 5 actions, you've still got to sometimes work out what is the best order for me to take them in, which again, if you suffer from that paralysis, then you're just going to really slow the game down to a sort of halt. So I wouldn't advise the game if you do suffer from that, but as long as you don't mind some of your turns being a little slow, like the rest of the time it's like, I want that resource, definitely, I really want that because it gets me that middle card. There's just some turns and some rounds that are a bit slower. When you're almost doing a bigger combo, I can get that resource so I can play this card and then gain that to do that. So yeah. There's a lot going on individual rounds, certainly in your first play. But if you don't have analysis paralysis much, it's a phenomenal amount of choices for you to sort of get involved with. It takes a few rounds to sort of visualise where in this central market area your bits are going to be. Now, it does just mean that a new player is a few steps behind, so a sort of experienced player has that advantage. I do think after a few games or a couple of games you are up to speed though, so you're not sort of too far behind and struggling against someone that's played 20-30 games of Targi. But just bear in mind, if you're going into it the first game, you will potentially struggle if someone else has already played it. So overall, I really like the concepts of getting the resources, saving up for the tribe cards, and the way you're blocking off worker placement spots and trying to activate cards in the middle of the market and around the edge, trying to maybe hold on to resources for when you get raided by that robber, and just generally trying to build out a really cool display that's going to score you lots of points. I particularly like that flow of the gameplay of, I've taken a tribes card, therefore I'm low on resources, it's replaced by a goods card. I just think that's really good design, because just when you need goods cards, the market's not just accidentally flooded by just a combined shuffled deck. You're taking from that goods deck, you're taking from that tribes deck. And it just means when everyone's needing goods, there's loads of them available. When you're needing then to spend them, there's opportunities for that as well. I really have enjoyed this one. It's certainly a slightly puzzlier 2-player game than other ones in my collection. And I was almost surprised that it does take, that 45 minutes to play. It seems like a very small sort of card-based worker placement game, but the amount of choices you get in the game, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like I say, as long as you don't suffer from analysis paralysis and don't mind a couple of your turns being a bit slow, this could be a really great 2-player worker placement game for you. Anyway, that is Targi, and thanks for watching the review. Let me know what you think of the game in the comment section below if you've played it, and until next time, have a great day gaming.